Do you wanna know what's going round? See what's the talk of the town on Real Talk on the radio today.
And welcome to WKDW Real Talk 97.5. We are live on the air today, and I wanted to thank my son, Michael Rawlings, for the fantastic job of writing the little jingle there. So Michael wrote that and put it into the system, and here we are today playing it on the air. So I've got a very special guest in the house. Stacy, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but go ahead.
I also really enjoyed the jingle, so thank you, Michael, for that. We're over here dancing to it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm Stacy Losio. I'm the emergency manager for the city of Northport, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So what is the responsibility of an emergency manager?
Ooh, good question.
Right.
We do a lot that people, I think, don't realize, because we kind of get put in this hole of being the hurricane people. But when there's not a hurricane, we do a lot of things day to day. We're always planning and updating our plans for any disaster. So a wildfire, some sort of terrorism event, things like that. So we have a whole bunch of different incident-specific plans that we need to constantly update as well. We do a lot of public outreach. We also are part of the local mitigation strategy. So we look for different ways that the city of Northport can strengthen our infrastructure and our programs. And we advocate for that with the county to get funding for those things. So increasing our resiliency, and then also long-term recovery. So I'm part of the Sarasota Long-Term Recovery Group, advocating for Northport for recovery resources as well.
So you get a lot of calls and feedback from citizens that are asking specific questions about any disaster or an emergency in their area, don't you?
Oh, yeah. And I'm happy to answer, any questions that people have. So, and if I don't know the answer, if it's the responsibility of somebody else's department, I'll make sure I get that answer for them too.
And that kind of works hand in hand with kind of every department in the city. You guys have a real good communication with each other. So if the call comes in the wrong way, you can redirect within the system, right?
We do. So I'm not in charge of the floodplain management and the flood maps, but I do get a lot of those phone calls. I know a little bit about the program, but not a lot of like the nitty-gritty details that our actual stormwater manager would know. So I tend to pass those phone calls along to our stormwater manager or our floodplain manager, depending on what the question is. I get a lot of those.
So I have her direct number to her desk, streaming across the bottom. It's 941-240-8176. You can always call the city of Northport directly and just ask for the emergency manager, Stacy. They know who she is. So if you have any need like that, just feel free to call, reach out, ask your questions. And today on the show, if you have any questions about the topics that we're talking about, please go ahead on Facebook and YouTube and wherever. We're going to keep track of those, and we're going to highlight those on the screen as those questions get asked, as always. Okay, so throughout the show, you can ask your questions, and we'll have you like a real Q&A where you're asking the staff directly your questions about any situation you may have had in the past, and maybe some changes that have been developed over time. So feel free to ask questions. The biggest question we've always had at some of the Northport Forward events and just so the community knows that Northport Forward holds the United Tours, and they give the city manager, Jerome Fletcher, gets up and gives a really cool overview of what's going on in Northport, gets a good feel, gets everybody kind of update and current. But then we have what I really like, which is the Q&A part. And to the working class, they get to watch these videos that we do later on in the evening. And we get quite a lot of feedback and quite a lot of views. But one of the big questions people always ask is, and it really is a hot topic still with Ian, is the FEMA and the recovery and the assistance. Can you talk about that? I mean, we're in hurricane season now, so it's kind of a wide open topic for everybody.
It is. I do have a couple of updates along those lines. FEMA, they have heard our cries to make their individual assistance program easier to navigate and more accessible to our residents. So they have added some new benefits that could help after a disaster. One of those is serious needs assistance. So you could qualify for funds that would pay for food, water, baby formula, medications, anything that you are, I guess they call it serious needs, right? So anything that's a serious need for you to survive. And also a displacement assistance program. So if you need to stay in a hotel for a few days or stay with family for a few days, they'll help cover any costs that you could incur throughout that process if you qualify. So those are just some new benefits. They also have expanded eligibility on a couple of different programs, like their home repair assistance, accessibility improvements program. And then they simplified their processes for the temporary housing assistance applications. They removed some barriers for late applicants. So if you couldn't apply within the deadline, but you send in a late application, they're no longer making you provide documentation for why your application is late. They'll just accept it. And then simplifying the process for appeal. So whereas before you need to write a whole appeal letter to support your documentation, they aren't requiring that anymore. So they're making it easier in a lot of ways for us. So that's some great news. They have a great one-pager if you just Google FEMA individual assistance updates, that if you want additional information, you'll be able to find that.
And those things, those are crucial updates right now. I wish they would have done that sooner, but I'm just screaming that out from the old boat guide that's on the screen right now. But I know I've walked a lot of people through the process, and I know that our station manager, RJ, has done a lot with FEMA representation for citizens in our community and surrounding communities. And it's one of the hardest battles there is out there. But if they're streamlining it, they had a good practice run with Ian. Not that they haven't in the past, but I hope we don't have to put that to the test right now, which kind of sets me up with the ultimate question. How are we preparing as a city? Now that we've been through Ian, how are we preparing as a city to get through another, hopefully not Ian, but if we were to have that, how are we preparing now for that?
Yes, so we have a lot of lessons learned from Ian that we are implementing. So we are creating a better process for managing our resources, both our internal resources and the resources that were requested from the county or from the state or from the feds that come in, because we need to track those and know where those are as well. And that was something that was really difficult for us to do during Ian for a lot of different reasons. Not any one person's fault. It's just, it was a big catastrophic event for us. So we're trying to have a better process in place for that. And we're doing a lot of work. We have a lot of training and exercises that we're doing with our internal staff and with partners as well, so that we get more comfortable working together. So we're able to communicate and know each other, know how each other works, and have a great rapport before a disaster happens. So that helps a lot and helps us to communicate with each other a lot better as well. We're reviewing our contracts. We have a lot of contracts in place with that follow the federal guidelines, so that when a disaster happens, we can get that reimbursement from FEMA for those things. So we are reviewing those contracts, and if there's anything that is missing that we wish we had for Ian, but we didn't have a contract for, we're starting to beef up those contracts to include those things as well. And then going out and doing hurricane seminars and informing the public is another big thing that we're trying to do more of. If anybody out there wants to do a hurricane seminar, wants to have myself or my deputy, Mike Navarez, come speak, you can go to northportfl.gov/request speaker and fill out an application to request us to come speak. So there's a lot more that we're doing, like updating plans and things, but that's the main thing we're doing.
Fantastic. And I'm going to add something in for the city and the citizens. And if you want to jump in on this, you can, but I'm just going to throw a quick reminder out to the listening audience, because we have been doing a lot of conversation on the show with commissioners, with Jerome Fletcher, our city manager, and staff at different venues. But the city of Northport cannot withstand another hurricane financially. So, in preparation for these types of things, we need to have borrowing power as a city. We are the only city in the state that does not have borrowing power. Think of yourself as buying your home. You have to borrow money to get your home. We need to keep our city solvent, and we do not want the state to interject into any needs ever. We would like to keep it home and keep our hands around our own financials. So be wise about your vote and prepare your city for future endeavors and future crises. If you don't set the city up for success, holy cow, I don't know if you're going to be able to understand the crisis that's going to happen. We have got to set our city up and set our commission, our city manager, and staff up to manage these things. They did a great job the last time. The removal of debris was amazing. They know what they're doing. They have the cycles down pat. But if we don't wrap our hands around the borrowing power, we are no longer a baby city. We are not the redheaded stepchild. We are leaders in the industry. So let's start acting like a city and wrap your hands around it. And I don't know if I said it all, but if you've got anything else you want to add, Stacy, please do.
Just from an emergency management perspective, we can get hit by more than one disaster, right? So let's say we had Ian happen, and another storm could easily have followed, right behind it a week or two later. It's happening right now in the Gulf. There's a storm that went through Mexico, and Beryl came through, and now there's another one developing right behind it. So that's also another thing too. It's like we could get through another storm, but there could be a second storm that follows, or some sort of a cascading event that happens that causes us to go outside of what our fiscal means are. So it is an important topic, and I'm glad you brought it up, and it's definitely something we need to continue educating and discussing.
All right, to all the guys out there, this hurricane season is like when we used to play with our orange Hot Wheels track, and we would set up a track that ran down the hill, but we would line up 14 cars. Here's the thing. All those cars go down the track really fast. If we don't have funding to fix it all, that wreck at the end of the track that we used to, as a kid, rebuild and just re-put back up, they're just going to sit there. So I made a joke out of it, but seriously, it's not a joke. If we don't really understand what we're voting for, you need to get educated on this. This is not a joke. It's not time to laugh about it, but it is time to think about being prepared for yourself. The city is being prepared, and the city is also trying to prepare us now with the warning signs that we have right now, that we need to have that capability. We are there. We cannot be pay it as we go any longer. It's not gonna happen. And I'm gonna promise you this, with all the listening that I've done, I don't think any staff member or any of the leadership, commission, or our great city manager, Jerome Fletcher, wants the state to interject. That, and as citizens, we should run to the voting booth and vote yes, vote yes, vote yes. Get it done. That's the best thing for our city. And truthfully, I've got to ask this now. We know what the city has done now that you've talked about the preparation. We've talked about the city being prepared financially to endure another crisis. How do the citizens get prepared?
Well, First of all, have me come do a seminar. I can talk to you all about it. And I'd love to meet more people within our community. But also there's creating a go kit. You can go to ready.gov and there's a great list on there that goes through things that you should consider bringing. Have a plan for if you are planning on staying. If you're in like a B zone or a C zone, you should have a plan for both, because it could be, we're only evacuating A and it's safe for you to stay home. So have a plan for if you're going to stay home, but also have a plan for if you need to evacuate, and have a couple of different places to stay. So we don't want you to only have one place and then be in kind of a bind when the storm's coming. So have friends you can stay with, have a hotel in the back of your mind that you could make reservations at, or we always have the shelters or the evacuation centers that the county opens up within Northport that you can stay at as well. Just know that those are lifeboats and not cruise ships. They're not going to be super comfortable. But so make sure that you really have a plan in place that works best for you and your family, and that you communicate that plan. Another thing is we have a lot of new residents in Northport who maybe have never prepared their home for a storm. I recommend practicing putting up your hurricane shutters so you know how long it's going to take to do that. It might take longer than you think. Practice loading up your car so you know what? We packed way too much. There's no room for the children and the dog in the back. We need to figure out how to really limit what we're bringing with us. So really practicing, and then talking to your neighbors as well. Do they need any help preparing their homes? During recovery, who has a chainsaw, who is really handy or strong and is able to help with debris, or who can help get those shutters off of your home. Things like that are really helpful as well, and help make us a more resilient community.
Fantastic. And just as a reminder to citizens, listen. If you've got a home, and I'm going to do a couple shows coming up on some financial advice, some roofing advice, some insurance advice. We're putting it together now. It's going to be about 3 or 4 different entities talking about hurricane preparedness and after effect. I'll just throw you a little curveball here on this conversation and say another way the citizens can be prepared post-event is to have yourself, like the city of Northport wants to be, get yourself set up financially. So if you had to have a second mortgage, you don't have to use it. You just have to set it up. And if you set yourself up like the city wants to set themselves up to be able to borrow to get things done during a disaster, I will promise you this. When you're trying to put a roof on and you already have your financing and people are knocking at your door and trying to figure things out, your checkbook's going to open up a lot quicker, and you can get reimbursed on the back end, but you can get dried in, you can get all these things. It's kind of cool how that all wrapped around into what the city needs to do to protect us at the same level. Your house needs attention. The city needs attention. We both need to set ourselves up with borrowing power to take care of the need post-event. That's a great example of how the city has to do it. And really, as a citizen, you should be setting yourself up for success post an event by not utilizing the emergency funds until you actually need them. And I'll promise you, if you go around and you talk to people, they had wished they had that prior to. Stacy, do you want to add anything?
I do. That just jogged my memory about something else I wanted to talk about, because this is something that we as residents need to start doing now. And this is for insurance, is taking a picture or video of your house now, pre-storm, with timestamps and date stamps for your insurance. So when a storm comes through, you'll get reimbursed from your insurance a lot more quickly, because they'll have a before and after to compare, especially after Ian. If you had damage from Ian that you've repaired, you want pictures to prove you repaired it. Otherwise, insurance might go back and say, that was damaged during Ian. How do we know that you never fixed it? So just something that I recommend I'm doing myself. I recommend everybody also does as well.
Video walkthroughs. Video walkthroughs. And by the way, I stole one off of the agenda for my show coming up, and so did Stacy. Dang. But that's great information. It's so great to have these conversations because it's all relative to the success of the city and the citizen. And if you haven't gone through it, documentation. If you have a video of all of your stuff that is no longer within your household, that is scattered all over the place or floating down the road, and they all claim that it's not yours, it's really easy to pull it up with a video and make sure that you claim that all that stuff is mine. That's my boat sitting in that house over there. I know where it's at. People had to go through this stuff. The people that lost out would be the ones that would step forward right now and say, I lost out because I didn't document. I didn't do these things. Insurance companies will pay you for what they believe you had. They will pay you for the damage that they believe occurred. If you have proof that it happened post your film and it's dated, bam, you're covered. You've got that. And you've at least got something to battle them with. Empty-handed, empty camera, not so much. So keep that in mind. Great point, Stacy. I really appreciate that. So the understanding the evacuation orders. Oh my gosh, I'm going to let you take this one, but I'm going to throw some stuff in a little bit. Go ahead.
Okay. So there's some confusion sometimes around evacuation orders and mandatory, not mandatory. If the county calls an evacuation order, they take that very, very seriously. That means that we're expecting, based on the information we have at that time, we're expecting life-threatening conditions where your house is, and you should leave. They're not going to use the word mandatory anymore. So they're just going to say, we're evacuating you. Just get out. And we're not going to kick you out. This is America. You can stay, but just know that we're expecting life-threatening conditions in your area. Once winds reach 45 miles per hour sustained, we're not going to be able to send first responders out to you. We pull our first responders off the road, and they won't go back out until the conditions are safe. Those 45 mile per hour sustained winds recede. And we're not going to know what the road conditions are going to be like or how soon it could be that the roads are clear enough for us to get to you. So really, it is in your best interest to have those evacuation plans and to evacuate, because we know it's a pain. We wouldn't make you do it or ask you. We can't make you do it. We wouldn't ask you to do it unless, your life was in danger, your safety was in danger. So just if we tell you to evacuate, to do so. And the county is doing something really cool this year is they're taking the Know Your Level map, and they're going to turn, during a hurricane, they're going to turn every level that they're evacuating red. So you go to the Know Your Level map and you'll see, all right, my area where my house is, it's red. That means they told me to leave. And, we'll also be communicating what evacuation levels are being evacuated through WKDW and social media and our website and everywhere else. But it's also something else that the county is doing.
So you threw WKDW out there right now, but we have a great partnership with the city of Northport. WKDW 97.5 FM. If you went through Ian before, we had all kinds of ways knocked down as far as communication. But the city of Northport and 97.5 FM have partnered. The city right now has the capability, as I do in my studio, to take our music, our shows off the air with a push of a button while while anything is happening on the radio. It will now be the city of Northport. And so far, we can't document this any further at this point, but we believe we're the only city in the country that has FM capability directly from City Hall during an emergency. While other stations do emergency news updates, you're going to get it from City Hall. that's unique because we are your community radio station. And as that, we are a nonprofit organization, and they have wrapped their arms around this and realized that communication to the citizens of Northport, the 94,700 of us out here, had to be addressed. And when we started talking about it, they said yes, absolutely. This city is 100% trying to get communications out. We don't have a TV station here, but we do have radio, and they have really been behind this. And we're going to be together. And I don't mean the city and the station. I mean the city as a whole. Citizens, the station, and city staff and management. We're pioneers right now on getting this stuff done because they all felt the citizens of Northport were that important to be able to communicate no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? It is already the communication out to people yesterday. Devon was talking about it and broadcasting it out on the lawn at the event. And I had more people ask me questions as I was walking around. Spread the information. Go ahead, Stacy.
It's just, we're very grateful for your partnership. And that was another lesson learned from Ian, right? All communications were down, and it's really hard to get information out, life-saving information out to people within the community when we don't have cell phones and we don't have the internet. And this is a way, you have a battery-powered radio, or you can turn on your car and tune into 97.5 and get some real-time updates about where points of distribution are open, what shelters are open, where's the disaster recovery center, all these things that we know our people need, resources we know that our residents need, and being able to get that information into their ears so that they can, take action and go get those resources. So we're very grateful for you, and we're so glad to have this partnership, and we're going to be using it.
And we already, believe it or not, we already are. We're already all over it. And the beauty is that the citizens that are finding out about it are kind of amazed, because I'm kind of going to compare our station to Warm Mineral Springs. While the people that utilize it realize how valuable it is, mm-hmm. and how beautiful it is, and what the Parks and Rec Department does to beautify it, even though it's in its current state, our station is the same way. We are Warm Mineral Springs, and in our current state, we are upgrading things. We're ever changing. We are trying to keep up with the Warm Mineral Springs motto. Let's beautify it. Let's make it better. Let's clean it up. Let's do our thing. We're doing that at the station. And while doing that at the station, this partnership with the city, like Warm Mineral Springs, has rejuvenated Warm Mineral Springs into a better spot than it's been in a long time. I've been here since 2000. Warm Mineral Springs needed the attention of the city. It's going to get it in one format or another. I hope we do some creative things there, but I also hope that we put some new buildings on board, because I think we need them. And if you don't know about Warm Mineral Springs, you go back and look at past videos. We're not going to talk about it now, but that combination of how that park is developing is what we're doing, and what the city's doing with us, to really wrap their hands around both things and say, we've got great things happening within our community. We're forging ahead with communication. We're forging ahead with Warm Mineral Springs. We're creative. We're thinking outside the box, and we're trying to get things done. And that's the beauty of this whole thing. And being I love it, because we are the biggest city in Northport as a whole. We're the biggest city population. I didn't used to be able to say that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Boom. Yeah, I said Northport. I'm glad you said
we are the biggest city in Northport.
I get so excited to even say it.
It's very exciting.
It is. And here's the other thing, though. That shows where we're going. We're not even halfway built out yet. That all those things matter. The emergency management system, it matters. the communications out matters. I'm going to give a quick story too on the evacuation, because it forever is in my head now because of Ian. I remember watching two women who rode out all the hurricanes on Fort Myers Beach at Hooters. They stayed for all of the hurricanes they'd ever been through. Nobody's interviewed them again. Nobody's followed up with them again. And Hooters
Isn't there anymore. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to kind of throw that story at you and let you think about that for a bit, because the evacuation is so we don't have to tell stories like this about you if you don't leave. Run from water, hide from the wind. It's not difficult. Just get to safety. You got to run from the water. So get off the coast if it's coming up the coast and get away from the shorelines. That's the first and foremost thing you got to do. And then you got to go inland and you got to get yourself protected and hunker down. I got to tell you, Saladay said it best: hunker down, hunker down, hunker down. He was on my podcast, my show on the radio prior to Ian for days. WKDW, like the city of Northport, we are preparing. I'm already reaching out and I'm lining up things. I've got FEMA. I've got the Small Business Administration. I have them in my cell phone. I can call them and have them on the air prior to and after, guiding you through everything you need to know. These are very important things to share with the people in your community. Get to know your neighbor, educate them, and share this information. And I know, Stacy, you believe in that. You guys work really hard to get communication back out to the citizens. Where could they find information about all of this stuff? Where can they get that from you?
Yes. So if you go to northportfl.gov/alerts, there are links to hurricane preparedness. There's a link to the new disaster guide that the county just came out with, so you can read through that. We'll be posting storm updates there if there's a hurricane before it happens and after impact. So I highly suggest bookmarking northportfl.gov/alerts. Also, if you haven't already signed up for emergency alerts through our Everbridge system, go to alertsarasotacounty.com and sign up for those as well.
You know, you guys kind of take this serious, don't you?
Kind of, yeah. I make a living off of it. I mean, it's I take it very seriously. I take my job very seriously. My deputy does. Our community, like all of Northport, takes this extremely seriously. We are doing everything we can to strengthen this community, to strengthen our abilities to help our residents. You know, we are in the plans of building an emergency operations center, which will help us better coordinate our recovery resources better out in the community. It'll help us better coordinate our response actions as well. It'll help us communicate better with the county and with the state. It's going to be a great project for us once it's completed to be able to have that. We are, getting updated utilities facilities as well. There's a lot of things that we're doing to help improve and to help our wonderful, amazing residents before, during, and after disaster.
So I'm going to ask you a question because it's just a little bit off topic, but it's not. I know that we go through growing pains at the station. I've talked to enough nonprofit organizations that are out there, and they go through these growing pains. I've been the athletic booster president at the high school. We had growing pains there. I was part of the Pop Warner organization. I know we had situations there. But we are all, in any of those facets, we're all stuck with the same problem, which is communication out. Communication. And I had this conversation today with the station manager, because the philosophy that we're adapting to is we have got to build our citizenry team. And that's engagement, citizen to citizen. Our citizens have to help all of these organizations. The citizens have to help the city. Everyone should be sharing the content of this show, sharing the emergency content from the county, encouraging people to find solutions to the answers that to their questions through the city, and really wrapping their hands around it. And I know we're frustrated, but we deal with it. I know for a fact you guys are frustrated, but you're fighting through. Please assure the city, the citizens, that you're fighting through the walls of lack of communication out, because it's unique.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
We are. So on top of using WKDW, we also in City Hall have installed a Starlink. So we'll have satellite internet communications available, which we didn't have before. So we now have redundant communications here. We almost are completed with having our full building generator installed here at City Hall to keep us having power throughout the storm and after. So we're really doing everything we can to make sure that we're able to push information out through as many ways as possible. And even if it means, sending runners out and putting notices at Publix, we'll do whatever it takes. Billboards, you name it. We're going to do our best to get our messaging out however we can.
Absolutely. And you guys work really hard at it. You do a great job with the limited compared to like a major city like Tampa. I don't even want to go north anymore. I love it down here. I'm from up north, and you always get accused of saying up north we do this. Well, up north I came from a really big city. We're doing things down here right now, believe it or not. We're doing things here locally, and we're ahead of the cities up north. We're getting there. Our train is moving. The city is a locomotive right now. It is moving at 94,700. We're moving. And our city staff and our city managers and our commission, they're on the ride. They really are. Emergency management, it's on the ride. The emergency team itself, they have to prepare for the future. They have to look forward. The police department that they're talking about, they're not joking about that. The messaging that needs to get out about that the citizens need to know, is that the police department was built. It was built when 2008, I believe it was finished, right around that time frame. And it was almost too small then when they completed it. We have got to look forward, but we lost buildings with Ian. We've got to relocate staff into different areas. The police department will be utilized. It won't be tore down. It's advancement of different departments into the City Hall area. And we've got to wrap our hands around the fact that we don't have any buildings in our town. That's why they're building houses here, because we don't have old houses. We had small amounts of old houses. Strip malls, they're being built. We don't have old strip malls like Port Charlotte. If we don't start advancing our thought processes around the city that has to build and grow, and also keep the trees, we have a great department arranged for that now, and we have a tree fund that's generating this. We've got rejuvenation going on. All of these things matter, and yet we're talking about emergency management having to go along with the ride. They're not here to hurt us. They're here to help us, keep us safe during a storm, post-storm, give us direction. They do a great job. We need to start wrapping our hands and our arms around them, and one, saying thank you. And the best way to say thanks, spread the information, start talking to your neighbors and get them engaged, whether it's through the radio shows here, whether it's through their social media sites, Northport Forward, any of these groups. just a tad bit of off cuff. If you're getting all of your information off of social media, okay, good. Adapt to some things. Open your mind. Don't just trust what others are saying. It's the easiest way, and I know Chuck English hates this, but it's the easiest way to get misinformation. Misinformation is a real thing. Ask staff, ask your commissioners, ask the city manager. By the way, all of those things happen when they do the United tour with Northport Forward. You have an opportunity to listen online. I film it, I'm there. You have an opportunity to watch it, the whole thing. You have an opportunity to ask questions of staff. Stacy's given her number. It's scrolling across the bottom. She's there. She's willing to answer questions. We need the citizens to engage with the city and all of the social media aspects of it to get their mindset around it. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, I mean, we're always up for engagement. Like I said, I love going out into the community and speaking with people, especially about emergency management.
Yeah.
You had mentioned how things are up north with emergency management. I'm from up north. The reason I came to Florida is because Florida emergency managers are the best emergency managers to learn from. So when I chose this career, I knew that this is where I wanted to be. I have learned a lot. I am really excited and happy to be here in Florida as an emergency manager, and really, we are advancing the programs here and engaging in our best practices, and really on the front end of things here in Northport for emergency management. So it's very exciting. But I am all about, a big part of that is engaging with the community and hearing your concerns about emergency management and what you're worried about, and if there's anything that I can do to help answer any questions. My information's there.
So if I ever hear anyone say, from here on out, you got my warning, the city of Northport doesn't communicate with me, my first question is going to be, have you looked at their website? Have you pulled up their social media? How else are they going to communicate with you other than if you haven't even bothered to call? I got into this little tit for tat on Northport City Concerns, and they kind of don't like me over there right now because they hide behind the I'm going to ban you idea. Well, I'm banned now. They can't communicate with me. I asked them a simple question: have you called anyone on the topic? You get this thing going on. That's why I tell you, don't trust in social media, because people have narratives behind everything that they're trying to do on some of these social media pages. Not just that one, but other ones too. You have to get your hands and your mind wrapped around the city of Northport as a whole, then go out in social media world. At least you have good information from the city first, and then clarify what your narrative is. Don't count on someone else's narrative. It is very important for all of us to start paying attention and driving our fellow citizens to all the stuff that Northport is trying to put out as a city. They're not just doing it because they want to keep a job. They're doing it because they want to inform you. You have to seek information. If you're not the seeker of information, you're a follower. And sometimes when you follow, people tell you the wrong information. So don't be a follower. Get out there and educate yourself on what's happening. Do you want to add anything to that, Stacy?
Just that I know that our communications team, they're the big social media lead here, and I know that they've been doing a great job. I try to stay away, and they'll pull me in for things that I need to be pulled into. I focus more on the emergency stuff. So I know there's a lot of great things that our communications team is doing out on social media to get some really true great information out there.
So I got a quick question for you. What is a resilient SRQ?
Oh, great question. So Resilient SRQ is that big pot of money that we got after Hurricane Ian. It's around $200 million that the county received. And they created an action plan that was approved by HUD, the federal agency. And they just opened up their housing recovery program. And that is a program that's open to Northport residents who are impacted by Hurricane Ian. And they will, if you qualify, they will give you money that will go towards home repairs that you've already done but want reimbursement for, home repairs that still need to be accomplished, and they'll work with local construction workers to get that done. And you can go to resilientsrq.net/housing-recovery. I'll repeat that one more time. resilientsrq.net/housing-recovery. And you can see how, if you qualify, you can fill out a survey. There's a phone number and an email there if you have questions. And I believe they're still at the Shannon Staub Library Monday through Friday to answer questions in person as well.
So I was talking with one of our citizens, and we were talking about the funds, and I'm holding this conversation, and Neil Rainford walked in, our representative, and he slid right in, super excited to talk about all of the things that the funds are going to go to in South County, by the way. So we need to really understand the full essence of what that fund is all about. I'm actually going to have Neil on. I'm hoping that he takes the 26th of this month, but if not, it'll be sometime in August. But we're really going to dive down into what he does, what the importance of the resiliency was all about, and really talk about some of the projects that are going to be funded by this for the citizens of South County. And some of them, while everyone says they're not directly connected with the city, sorry, they are in one format or another, because roadways are very important. I know that we're talking about the extension now into River Road, which is a dividing factor with Inglewood. And however you look at it, Welland Park, the city of Northport, Welland Park neighborhood up there, and I call it a neighborhood. It's really not. It's part of the city of Northport. Those access roads out to the freeway are evacuation routes. They need to be completed. They have to be completed because that end of the town is growing at leaps and bounds. And while it is ever changing the look of our city, they're still part of our city. They're not changing their way out. We're changing their environment, and the roads have got to keep up. Just like Price Boulevard, it's got to get going. I know it's getting going, and I know they're talking about it. And if you have doubt about that, just be prepared. It's going to get started here real soon. I believe they were talking this year that project would get off and get started. And, the only delay that we had was Ian. Again, Ian was a factor in slowing Price Boulevard from getting started. Thank goodness, because now those bridges are going to be handled a lot different, because we've been through Ian. We've now seen what the water could do. So those bridges hopefully will never get taken out again by another Ian, if that be the case. But all these things are part of what we learned through Ian. And it's essential that the citizens share this information out and really understand that we're just not saying, no, we're not doing Price Boulevard, we're doing another project. We had to redesign the bridges, all four of them. And you have to kind of step back and say, what happened to delay the road? No one's saying no to the road. Everybody's saying, we got to build it differently now, because look what happened to it the last time. And I am going to say this, and I know you're probably going to shake your head to this. If the road closed signs are up, wake up, citizens. It says road closed. I know people were trapped. They felt trapped. There was one road, and it was still Price Boulevard, that partial bridge was open. The roads were closed. You should respect that little bit of ground you had there, and now think outside the box, which should be inside the box. But I'm going to say it outside the box, because the selfishness of the people who were going to go looky-loo, if that bridge would have gone out, emergency management would have not been able to get to you. That was the only way in. You've got to remember these things because the rest of the roads were flooded. Now, they would have found a way. But think about it. Emergency, an ambulance trying to get to you, a heart attack waiting. If those bridges get taken out, that little bit of bridge, sorry, there wasn't a whole bridge there. They had the road closed for a reason. You've got to pay attention to that. They were working really hard to open up our roadways, get things done. We had 75 shut down, we had 41 shut down, we had roads shut down, and everybody said, "What about me?" I'm just telling you, the "what about me" thought process, when you have a massive crisis going on, a major crisis, like we had with Ian, and yet things were being done in a really systematic way to get our citizens access points to what they needed, emergency situations that they needed to address. There were nobody sleeping on the job. Do you want to add anything into that?
No, it's just, we're sympathetic to people who are sick at home. I know it's boring, but that's why we tell people, have enough food and water for several days. Make sure you have something to keep yourself entertained, or just evacuate so you don't have that situation where you're flooded in your home and you can't leave, or roads are closed and you're trapped. It's just, it is important to pay attention to those signs and only go where it's safe. It's for first responders' sake, so that the roads are clear for them, but also for the safety of our residents as well. And a lot of times after disaster, it's just not safe to be out on the roads.
And I think the important thing to remember is everyone in this city was not alone. It wasn't one strip of area. It was the city as a whole, collectively. 94,700 of us. Well, I think we were less than. I'll give us 82, and that's low. But think of it that way. We literally, just because you wanted to go out and look and see and be on the road in that time frame, within the first 24 hours or within the first 12, think about it. The whole city was in distress. And everybody wants to go see. So put 80, well, let's just cut it into a quarter. Put 20,000 people out looky-looing to see what's going on, while the emergency management team, not just from our area, but all over the place. That we're talking coastal, we're talking inland. Things were happening at such a quick pace, and we have got to slow it down. At that point, everybody should have been prepared. That's why we're talking about preparedness. That's why we're talking about food and water. Sit back, stay in your house, and wait for the communication to come out. Wait for the roads to open back up. Let the emergency crews get things safe before you go out and looky-loo. And that's my suggestion. We've got 2 minutes left.
Well, I just want to touch on really quick, because that also brought up a good point. We have some community emergency response teams. We have 4 of them in the city. But if anybody's interested in being on a community emergency response team or starting one up in your own community or with your HOA, you can reach out to me and I'll get you in touch with some people who can help you start that process, because that's a great way to get yourself organized. You're trapped in your neighborhood. You don't know what to do after a disaster. They'll teach you how to help organize a coordinated recovery effort within your neighborhood to get your neighborhood back to normal as quickly as possible. Because it could be a while, before we can get in and help. But you can learn some tips and tricks to be safe while you go out in your neighborhoods and help out your neighbors.
Yep. Just remember, be safe. We don't have anything out there now. We don't have anything brewing at the moment, like coming our way. But as we know, anything can change at a drop of a hat right now. And this year is not supposed to be an easygoing year, as we can already see. That was a major storm that developed and did not come this way, but the damage it's caused right now can happen again here. Vote smart, vote smart, vote smart. Let the city have the capability of borrowing. Do not put our city in harm's way without a storm. We need to be able to borrow money. Borrow money. Thank you so much for being part of it. Stacy, I appreciate you. And thanks, staff, for allowing this to happen. Have a blessed day, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. This is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5, reminding you that the emergency broadcasting network of the city of Northport is 97.5 FM. Thanks and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.